Alright folks, welcome to another edition of Standard Spike. Today I'm playing Legacy, actually. And what else to play except for the best deck in the format, which is Stoneblade. Um, so, the first things first. I plan on doing a few Legacy videos as a kind of introduction to the format in preparation for the mocks. But I mean, Legacy it's not very popular online, but the format does see a bit of play in real life. So I figured why not get into some Legacy? And I've been playing more and more Legacy myself, if only because there's events happening. So I wanted to actually test the format, which is very difficult to do if you don't have any of these cards. But that's why I assembled a deck, and I'm going to be playing some matchups for you to watch. The matchup today is going to be this deck, which is my version of Esper Stoneblade, versus the version of Rug Delver that just top 8'd in Las Vegas. Actually played by a friend of mine, no less. But forget about that. We're going to go over Stoneblade and why it's the best deck in the format, and of course my specific version, and also a few of the secrets to Legacy that I will impart on you. So the first secret to Legacy is basic lands. Rug Delver and Maverick, which make up together, let's say, I don't want to overestimate here, but I want to say at least 35% of the format. Both rely on Wasteland, and this deck requires a lot of lands, both in the early game and late game, or rather, it requires to have lands in play in the early game, and if they Wasteland you in turn 1 or 2, you're really far behind, especially against Rug Delver. So the key to that is easily just play basic lands. And not a lot of decks in the format can afford to do that, but this is one that can, and that's what makes this deck so good, in my opinion. In this version, we happen to be playing black, which is very iffy as far as basic lands go and the basic land plan. But against other decks that aren't Maverick or Rug, those are really good, and the basic land thing doesn't matter as much against other decks. So you just have to be pretty careful with these in those matchups. And also, we're playing black for other things in the sideboard as well, and that's actually where most of the value comes from. Lingering Souls and Cabal Therapy and Intuition for those is a pretty big plan. So this version plays 7 basics. We have 9 fetch land as well. Only 2 Chandras, 1 sea, and 1 scrub land. I'm actually not sure if the scrub land should just be another sea or not. It was a sea before when I was playing the deck, but I just wanted to try out Scrubland, see what happens. And our utility lands are Academy Ruins and Caracas. I don't feel like we can afford to play very many of those because we're trying to operate on as few lands as possible and still play around Wasteland. So Caracas is just that's a free one basically. It's just there for Reanimator. And Ruins is there to work with explosives and then also to get back Batterskull as a win condition. Better than Riptide Lab because Riptide Lab just doesn't happen early enough. It just takes forever to actually matter. Ruins is actually pretty similar in that fashion, but it's more likely to be relevant when it does come down to that. So that's the lands. It's pretty simple. I kind of want to play 23. I'm not sure yet what I'm going to do about that. I could just board one, but right now I'm on 22. Our cantrip suite is 4 Brainstorms, 2 Ponder. I played only 1 Ponder in Las Vegas, and that was okay, but I felt like that's actually something you want to have access to just about every game. So I added another Ponder, and I think that's actually the right place to be, just 4 and 2. Ponder is much worse than Brainstorm, but they do different things sometimes. Whenever you have Brainstorm, you usually wait to the last possible moment to cast it, whereas if you have Ponder, you almost always do it right away. Not every time, but almost always. And it's mostly because of the sorcery, and also because Brainstorm is so much more versatile. You can do just so many more things with it, between shuffling back dead cards, protecting from discard spells, just finding whatever you need at the right moment, because it digs so deep. Our discard suite, like I said, it's kind of an iffy thing in this deck because of the basic land plan, but I think it's worth having in a lot of the matchups in the format. And then, of course, the black and sideboard, like I said. That's just amazing. Our counterspell package includes 3 Pierce, 1 Snare, 4 Force of Will. Pretty standard. The 1 Snare is kind of random, but that's my thing, is to have 1 copy of a card that's kind of narrow, because drawing multiples of it is really bad, but drawing 1, usually you're okay. And in this format, when you have Brainstorm, you can afford to play a couple cards that are usually dead, or dead sometimes, in different matchups, because you can just free roll those away. And that's kind of the case with these. Sometimes you're gonna, like, these are dead late game, so you can shuffle those away, or in some matchups you don't want to have them. And same with Spell Pierce, Spell Snare, just sometimes you don't want them, and you get to shuffle those away. I'm only playing 2 Jace, as compared to 3 as I was playing before, because it's just not very good in very many matchups. In some matchups, it's really good, like especially the mirror match. That's the big one. But you just don't play the mirror match very often. And against Rug Delver, which is probably the most popular deck, it's just horrible. So I'm only down to 2 on those, and then the third one on the board. Yep. It's in this format, usually if you are capable of like casting it, resolving it, and it surviving, you almost always just +2. That's just how this format works. Because usually, like, the game, you're just stalemated, you just play Jace, well, and then +2 them, and they're pretty much dead. No real reason to brainstorm in that type of situation. And other than that, like, you almost never can resolve it and afford to brainstorm. Or afford isn't the right word. You never have to brainstorm if you can resolve it. But it's not always true. We have our equipment package. Pretty slim on that. You really don't need anything else, in my opinion. Just the 2 of those. You get Batterskull almost every time. There's I think against Elves is the big one for GT. And then against a Merfolk, it's kind of either one. It just depends. GT could be correct sometimes. Like if they have too many Lords, like then this doesn't kill it fast enough. But if they have Island Walk, then this card doesn't do enough. So sometimes neither of them is enough. Our removal suite is 4 Swords, 1 Path, 2 Explosives. Explosives is pretty strong because it's not as narrow as the other 5 are. And it's also capable of destroying Nimble Mongoose. Kills Delver pretty well too. And the Swords and Path, pretty simple. Very good cards to have. I want the 5th one because the format is just mostly creature decks. Well, maybe not mostly, but a good chunk of it. Very good chunk. Snapcaster, Stoneforge, pretty standard 4-ofs. I do not think I would ever go below 4 of either of these in the main deck. Although I do board out Mystics sometimes. I don't think I ever board out Snapcaster. Vendilion Click, just a really nice card to have in this format. Not great against creature decks, but it is really good against the other decks, where you're trying to disrupt them and have a clock at the same time. It's just perfect for that. And it also is capable of trading with Delver and Nimble Mongoose, so it's not horrible. It's just kind of hard to resolve because it costs so much mana against Rug Delver. Any other secrets to the main deck? I already told you, save Brainstorm as long as you can. You play around all the possible counterspells as long as you can afford to, which would be Pierce, Daze, and, well, those are the big ones, because the other ones are kind of hard to play around, like Force of Will. With Explosives, you can pay an extra mana to play around Spell Snare. With Thalia in play, you can pay the 1 mana that Thalia requires, and that contributes to the X, or rather to the Sunburst. So that does nothing against Explosives. I think that's it for the main deck. So moving on to the sideboard, we have a Cabal Therapy, Intuition, Lingering Souls plan for combo decks and control decks, I believe. These come in against some creature decks and then control decks as well. And just the only reason they're not main deck is because of combo. They're just really, really bad against combo. But we do board them in against combo because we're bringing in Cabal Therapy. Or rather, the plan is, I think, 2 Lingering Souls, 2 Therapy, 1 Intuition, and then the 3rd Lingering Souls just comes in against the decks you actually want to draw the card against, like Rug Delver. 1 Disenchant, just obligatory way to deal with some stuff. Sulfuric Vortex, Enchantress. Explosives, just another one of those is actually really good. And then coupled with that, we have 2 Terminus, which are primarily for Maverick. Like in that matchup, Wrath effects are just insane. The only thing they have that really matters is Gaddock Teeg. And if you keep Gaddock Teeg off the table and then have a Terminus, they are just dead. Like, that matchup is just... It's just like, hold them off for a little while, then as long as you have Wrath, they lose. Jace, pretty much just for the mirror match. Combo decks as well, actually. Definitely fine against combo. It's definitely expensive, but it's the best win condition you could probably ask for against them. Maybe except for Vendilion Click. Another Path Exile. It's just another removal spell. And then we have 3 Surgicals. 3 is the right number because of Intuition. Gives you the option of intuitioning for them and always getting one. And that is the best card we could have. It's good with Snapcaster. It is free, so it's turn 1 play if we want it to be. It also deals with opposing Intuition very nicely. It's just a free counterspell for Intuition, and like it's even better than just a counterspell. You just get to pick out everything they tutored for, whatever that may be. Just the best card for this slot. So I think that's the end of it. Yeah, with Terminus, you want to be very careful not to waste your brainstorms in those matchups. Like, this could just be Wrath of God, but I don't know. I've heard things about Terminus being good. I don't know yet. So that's the entire deck. And without further ado, let's get into some matches.